I want to be very clear about something. There is a lot of misconceptions about collectivism. Now, essentially, what collectivism means is to put the common good above the good of the individual. Now, I am a fan of the philosopher Ayn Rand, but she is one of the ones that has caused this horrible misconception. The reason all societies are basically a collective of some sort or another, otherwise they wouldn't be a society. And all societies must put the collective good above the good of the individual. Where the misconception comes is the concept of individual liberty, which is almost unique entirely to the Anglosphere and the Germanosphere, if you will. This is important to understand because you can't have individual liberty without the protection of the collective, an agreed upon norm of what values are, one of those values being personal liberty and self-determination. So the problem is, by going too far to the libertarian angle and not seeing the collective as being important and only seeing the individual as being important, you get basically a sort of cancer, a dog-eat-dog world wherein the most powerful enslave the weak and the most intelligent enslave the most strong. And it's ironic because Ayn Rand covers this in one of her interviews about the mastermind controlling the brute, the barbarian, to control the weak. Now, this is ironically the outcome that Ayn Rand says she wants to avoid by encouraging individual liberty is exactly what happens when you put the individual above everything else. You get exactly that. Now, the reason that this is also confusing is people think collectivism automatically means communism. It does not. People also think socialism automatically means communism, and it does not. In the United States of America, we have had a collectivist system dating all the way back to the beginning. The problem is we used to have a weak central government. So what it was the collective, the common good. I mean, you should read the Declaration of Independence if you do not believe the United States is a collective, or even worse, if you believe the United States is an anti-imperialist, because we are anti-imperialist, and the empire that we were against was the Empire of Great Britain, which at the time was the driving force of capitalist globalism, and now, unfortunately, capitalist globalism has embedded itself into the United States special interest sector. Now, where am I going with this? I'm going with this. The United States our social programs basically revolutionized the world and have been a model for everyone else. Our vaccination programs have damn near eradicated many illnesses, especially in the first world, and we're working on eradicating these illnesses in the third world. So what has happened is people are confusing the concepts. See, the United States is very socialist, but our social programs have begun breaking down because of capitalist globalism. What happens is we've replaced the government as the provider of the services to the needy. It used to be the government was the direct provider to the poor, okay? When somebody needed medicine and they couldn't afford it, the government became the direct provider. Now we're whoring it out to capitalist forces such as insurance companies and things of that nature. So what you're having, and you're seeing this in the military too, you're seeing our military making use of mercenaries, which if you read Niccolo Machiavelli's book, The Prince, you will see that that will be the undoing of our great rehash of the Roman Empire, because that is what killed the Roman Empire, was mercenaries. The problem is, again, money is not really, has no inherent value. It's only worth what you can buy with it, essentially power. So when you don't need money to buy power, which mercenaries pretty soon figure out, they can attack the people that are paying them and just take the money. And that's the problem. But more importantly, what you need to understand is the collective is extremely important. All functioning societies are essentially a collective, because if you're not a collective, you become basically a warring feudal state. Therefore, we must reclaim the concept of the collective for what it literally means, which is putting the many above the single person. And you must keep in mind, this does not mean that you need to be against individual self-determination. It just means it must be individual self-determination with the interest of the collective. And the interest of the collective is essentially the interest of the individual, because that's who protects the individual's individual liberties.